Greetings, my friends, and welcome back to Stark Raving. I am your host, Lord Stark of the Night's Watch. Now, some of you may remember from our last episode, just as the White Walkers appeared, I took a long overdue vacation to Essos. When I returned to the Wall, I was accused of cowardice and the victim of several unfunny practical jokes. Thus, the elders decided I should take some time off from the Wall while tempers cooled. Thus, I've been temporarily reassigned to the Brotherhood Without Banners. Oh, it's a little-known fact that the various Brotherhoods of the Damned in Westeros have an exchange program, so we can all learn from one another. The only problem with the BWB is that the mail service sucks. Ravens just won't fly into caves. However, my mail's finally been forwarded to me, and I'm sure there's nothing too bad that I've missed. A wedding invitation. So let's get caught up on all that juicy Westeros gossip that I've been missing and start with my favorite dysfunctional family, the Lannisters. This is Valar Dohaeris.
In King's Landing, Bronn is cavorting when Podrick summons him to Tyrion's side. Cersei goes to see Tyrion, and after the usual trading of insults, she asks why is he going to see Tywin, their father. He claims he wants to know why Tywin, the new hand of the king, didn't come to see him after he was injured. She tells Tyrion she's afraid that he's going to tell their father lies about her and Joffrey, and Tyrion wonders what those lies might be. Later, Tyrion is berated by Tywin for bringing a prostitute with him to King's Landing and continuing to indulge in his coarse behavior. Tyrion asks why his father didn't check up on him after the Battle of Blackwater. Tywin dismisses his contributions and then asks what he wants.
What do I want? A little bloody gratitude would be a start.
Jugglers and singers require applause. You are a Lannister.
Tyrion demands his birthright. Since Jaime is Kingsguard, he can inherit Tywin's lands. Tyrion wants Casterly Rock, the Lannister family estate. Tywin promises that Tyrion will receive a better home and a better job, but will not inherit Casterly Rock. Tywin might have to suffer with having a degenerate dwarf for a son, but he won't insult their bloodline by letting Tyrion inherit their family home. Elsewhere, Shae and Sansa are watching the ships sail out. Littlefinger arrives and reaffirms that when he soon leaves, he will smuggle her out of the city. Raz warns Shae that Littlefinger's intentions towards Sansa are less than noble. Joffrey and company are traveling through the city when his fiancée, Margaery, stops the procession to go into an orphanage. After the various riots and the battle at Blackgate, Joffrey is too afraid of the public to go after her, so he's forced to wait. Margaery makes nice with the orphans and promises the city will look after them, thus earning the royal family some much-needed goodwill. Margaery and Loras join Joffrey and Cersei for dinner, and although the Queen makes several veiled threats, the Tyrells play nice and even begin to win over Joffrey, leaving Cersei to worry that she's losing her position to Margaery.
So hurt feelings abound in the capital, but what about across the narrow sea? What about Daenerys Targaryen, the future Mrs. Lord Stark? What? I can dream.
On her ship, Daenerys and her dragons head towards Slaver's Bay to buy an army. The Unsullied, the most dangerous slave army in the world. The slave master, who regularly insults Dany in his native tongue, and his translator explain how the Unsullied are brutally trained. Only 1 in 4 survives the process and becomes a soldier with no free will. He points out the men are all castrated and cuts off one of the soldiers' nipples to prove they fear no pain.
To win his shield, an Unsullied must go to the slave marts with a silver mark, find a newborn, and kill it before its mother's eyes.
Later, Dany wonders what she will become when she owns 8,000 slaves. A small child gives her a ball when a cloaked man knocks it from her hand. A jeweled scorpion emerges and the man stabs it. The child was one of the warlocks. The man is the former Lord Commander of Robert Baratheon's Kingsguard, who now wishes to serve her, Barristan Salvi.
It's nice to know that once you're fired from your job for life by a brat king, you can simply travel halfway across the world and get the same job with the daughter of the insane king you didn't protect the first time, even though it was your sworn duty. Let's check in with Robb Stark.
Robb Stark marches his army into Harrenhal, only to find it deserted as the Lannisters continue to run from his army. Despite his wife's pleas, he imprisons his mother. After all, she freed Jaime Lannister, and in his escape, he murdered the sons of his ally, Rickard Karstark. They quickly realize that the Maester of Harrenhal is alive.
You're lucky to be alive.
Lucky.
Lucky in the same way that a man who's missing 3 fingers off his hand can still hold a pencil. Speaking of missing fingers, let's check in with Davos Seaworthy and the cast of Dragonstone.
Davos Seaworthy, stranded on a small stone outcropping after the Battle of Blackwater, flags down a passing ship. He mourns his son's death as his rescuer and old friend Zalador tells him that the Red Lady has burned all of the heretics at Dragonstone. Davos returns and confronts Stannis and Melisandre. He speaks out against her religious persecution and calls Melisandre his enemy. She claims they would have won at Blackwater if only Davos hadn't convinced Stannis to leave her behind. When she claims that Davos' son would have survived if she'd been there, he tries to kill her, and Stannis has him thrown into the dungeons.
And let's check in with my brothers of the Night's Watch, who think that short-sheeting a man's bed every night for a week is the height of hilarity. I have feelings too, you heartless bastards!
In the Northern Wastes, Sam is running. He finds a fellow Night's Watch only to see that he's holding his own head. Sam failed to send the Ravens calling for help, so Lord Mormont tells them they must march to warn Westeros. Elsewhere, Ygritte and Jon Snow arrive at Mance Raiders' camp. Jon sees the various tribes and even giants all preparing for war. He's taken to meet Mance, but in a kneel-before-Zod moment, finds that he's been bowing to one of Mance's lieutenants. Jon says he wants to join them because the Night's Watch knew about Craster's baby sacrifice to the White Walkers. He wants to stop that evil by any means necessary, which Raider accepts.
It seems like not much has changed since the Battle of Blackwater. It all feels very similar to what happened in the last episode of events and the last season, old changes in Westeros. It still feels like we're playing epilogue to that great fight. Let's take a closer look at this episode.
Overall, this episode didn't feel like the beginning of a new season, but rather continuing the epilogue to last season's Battle of Blackwater. Stannis and Davos are both feeling the effects of that loss. Tyrion is left wondering about his place in his family following the battle, and it's his scene with his father where he's clearly wondering why he's been given no love or respect after his heroism that's the most powerful in this episode. Still, there wasn't anything overall amazing here. As the first episode of the season, you'd expect us to check in with the entire cast, but we never see Jaime Lannister, Bran Stark, or Arya. I'm not sure if that's wise or not, as Robb's segment was so brief it was almost pointless, so maybe it's a good thing to hold back a few characters so that the entire cast wasn't left wanting screen time. Still, Sansa and Bronn's moments were a bit pointless, so maybe the wrong characters got cut from the episode. The only real plot development was in the south, as Dany's quest to become the queen continues, and she begins to try and gather her army. For one who's been anti-slavery almost from the start, her soul-searching at the end of the episode felt very genuine. If she conquers the Iron Throne using a slave army, is she a hypocrite? Is she no better than the slave drivers that she's decried? Also, Marjorie got some much-needed character development. Whereas last season she came across as a ruthless gold digger, here her kindness to the orphans shows what a shrewd political player she is. While she's still all smiles and comfort to Cersei's barbed threats and icy stares, the playing up to the orphans shows that she knows how to win the public over. That, along with the fact that we're never really sure if she genuinely cares about these kids, makes her a savvy player in the Game of Thrones.
Overall in this episode, it seems like not much was accomplished or achieved. The characters were just living their lives. That's not bad per se, it was just uneventful. I give Valar Dohaeris... the Brotherhood Without Banners considers the Sean Bean sacred, therefore I've had to find a new rating system that wouldn't call for the beheading of the wee beasties. I give Valar Dohaeris...
Do you have running?
2 kingly bitch slaps out of 5. Now some of you may have some questions about Westeros, the lives of the people, its culture, the strange things we encounter on an almost daily basis. Leave me a question in the comments section below, and I'll choose one to answer on next week's episode. Until then, I am Lord Stark, and this is Stark Raving!